Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. I guess we're going to continue the walk around this little area here near metro station Arbatskaya. I'm standing out in front of the Anglican church here where I left off last time. We're going to go this way. And gotta get the sunglasses back out. But yeah, we are on... I completely blanked on the name of the street. It's not Bryusov. It's Gazetnyy, I think, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's got to be it. So it is Gazetnyy. All right. I do love the vines that have grown up here form that really natural privacy wall. Gazetnyy переулок is kind of it's actually a little bit more built up, I can say. There's like a hotel back there. Aside from the church, there is a, you can see here, Yudashkin Sad, Yudashkin Garden. I don't know if it's connected to the designer Yudashkin, but I think there's a little cafe there. But we get out here back towards Bolshaya Nikitskaya Street, and we get a few of these like nice older buildings. I'm gonna wait for this car to pass, and then we're gonna jump over. But kind of the big thing here on Gazetnyy is the church, and I can never remember the name of the church in English. I think it's Ascension. What is it? Yes, Church of the Ascension. It's actually in Russian, right? Храм Вознесения Господня, or Malaya Вознесения. It's a really old church. Not too much else to be said about it other than that. Some holy relics inside there. It is the oldest building in this part of the city. It goes back to the mid 16th century. So, yeah. I mean, it's a church, so the history is all going to be connected to like church stuff and people who were kind of connected to the church and all that stuff. Now, this cafe that's across the way, which I don't know the name of it right now. I gotta check. I got a message from somebody. Hold up, what's going on? Okay, nothing important. That building across the way where everybody's sitting there and eating, that's why I'm gonna film from back here, was a bookstore back in the day. Lavka Imaginistov, which is not really that important, but for those of you who know your Russian poetry, Yesenin was connected to it. And they would have like these little gatherings of I don't know, progressive individuals, and they would have different readings and things of that nature. Now, obviously, it's a cafe, so I don't know, maybe they're having some readings and stuff there as well, too, but it kind of, I mean, like, it's still got some of the original look, but okay. All right, sure, whatever. Okay, I got through that thing. Jesus Christ, slow people in the city. I understand in Moscow everybody walks a little bit faster, but it is wild when you get stuck behind people not from the city who are, I don't know, just, anyway. Can't really see it right there. There's a statue. That is Tchaikovsky, and that is because this is the conservatory. This is the Moscow Conservatory. This is where you go if you want to listen to classical music. And more importantly, we're going to talk about the building. So, the building here was not always the conservatory. I actually have to pull up the original name. It's the Conservatory and the Synodic Vocal Academy is what it is. Synodic connected to the church, obviously. What they did is they took an old manor house, right? And the conservatory actually rented the manor house for a few years before just out and out buying it And then they obviously did a bunch of reconstruction on the inside. But it was responsible for training. God damn it. Horrible music. Yeah, they just trained the choirs and all that stuff. Okay, that's the reason Bolshoi Nikitskaya kind of sucks, is because it's full of idiot sticks like that. But yeah, conservatory, the vocal academy there was responsible for training the singers for the choirs in the Kremlin and in the church as a whole. Obviously, Tchaikovsky's out in front. A lot of famous Russian classical musicians are also connected to the it's a conservatory, right? Like, what are you gonna do about it? This building right here, which kind of hard to see, looks like an old Tsarskaya Palata. It is not. Looks like something built in the 16th century. It's not. It's actually from much later. Okay, anyway. Bryusov's kind of also like a fucking nightmare, but whatever. What are you gonna do? Yeah, this thing back here, it looks like an old 16th century palata. It's not. It's like from the 18th century, maybe even the 19th century. It was supposed to actually get torn down, but then World War I happened and they just completely forgot about it. I don't actually know what's inside of it now. I don't think anybody does, but it's just like a weird building built in an old style that most people get wrong. It's not super, super old. I mean, in 2026, it's quite old, but it's not centuries and centuries old. It's just like a few centuries. I guess centuries and centuries is, well, centuries implies 2, and centuries and centuries, so that'd be like 4. So anyway, we are on Bryusov Переулок. And maybe not the most interesting one in this area. It's named after Bryus. This is named after Yakov Vilimovich Bryus, who was a Russian of Scottish heritage. He's one of the guys who convinced Peter the Great, or he was connected to Peter the Great, kind of like helped take him through Europe, showed him a lot of stuff connected to what was happening in Europe at that point in time. And so he was like deep in government service. He was considered a miracle worker. I don't really understand why, but he had like the nickname of a wizard among the people. But the reason it's named Bryusov Переулок, and Переулок loosely translates as lane or side street, but the reason it's called Bryusov Переулок is because of Bryus, right? Yakov. So, because he had a manor house on this street. Okay. I'm gonna go here and take a look at some of these houses. All right, I can actually step back here a little bit. I think this is the one I'm looking for, right? No, it's the one behind me. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, right. I'm not gonna pretend like I know any of the names connected to this building, but if you look at the first floor, there are memorial plaques kind of everywhere, right? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not a memorial plaque. But if we go over this way, we can see over here, 6, 7, 8, right? So on and so forth. This is the Жилой дом, Дом артистов Большого театра. So this is the home of Bolshoi theater artists. That's basically it. During the Soviet Union, I think even before the Soviet Union, or before the revolution, quite a few in fact, of the actors from the Bolshoi theater lived in this building, and so like it just became kind of known for that. One of the things with Bryusov Street, in fact, is it's very connected to the arts. We have this building where a lot of artists from the Bolshoi theater lived and worked. Obviously, the conservatory is right down there at the end of the street. And we're going to see here towards the end of it, or a little further down, that the conservatory and musicians also were deeply connected to Bryusov Periulok as well. But we'll get to that in just a second. Before we get to that, there is, oh, I do want to point something out. Okay, so Bryusov Periulok 2A, right? This building right here. This looks like an old building, right? It's got like, it's kind of hard to see because of the light for once. There's a little kind of mural up there. You can see the railings have a bit of a, I don't know, like again, the Art Deco flair. This is actually a new building, right? This did not exist before. They I don't know if they completely redid it or if they tore it down and built something up here. But I talk a lot about how when they're building stuff, like that first building I showed after we crossed the street, kind of after coming out of the metro. And I said, like, it just looks awful, especially connected, or like in comparison to the building next to it. Just does not fit. This building fits here. If you weren't paying attention, if you weren't looking closely, you wouldn't really think anything of it. And I think this is a really good example of that care that can be taken and should be taken into account when they're building buildings, not just in the center of the city, but really anywhere, because the atmosphere of this particular neighborhood is not disrupted, even though there's a completely new building, or even there's like a reconstruction in the area. But yeah, is it old? Not really. Does it look like it's old? Yeah. And you know, the people connected to preserving the heritage of the city still have some thoughts on those types of buildings, and that's fine. That's kind of, that's on them. But I think for the most part, people who live in this city and actually pay attention to what's going on and like actually care about how the city looks would agree that that is probably the best option. Okay, another church. There's always, well, I mean, we're in the center of the city. I gotta get notes out for the church. This is the church Воскресенье на Успенском Вражке. Успенском Вражке is not really anything important. Церковь Воскресения is the Church of the Resurrection. This was supposed to be demolished by the Soviets, surprise, surprise. But the artists who lived in this area in the 1930s, so again, the Bolshoi theater artists and some of the musicians, they actually told the authorities to not tear it down. So that's good on them, obviously, from back in the day. But it's kind of a unique one. It's got these old paintings, right? The paintings in the, I don't know the architectural names for them, but in the like the crown areas up there. And then let me get a little bit, okay, it might be a little bit too bright to really make it out, but especially here, maybe? Can we see a little bit? You can see a little bit of them right there. But yeah, the sun is just, I think, way too bright. But we got like this mix of classical architecture with old Russian, just because the church is so old. The church itself goes back to 1634, if I am not mistaken. And obviously there were a lot of changes made to it over the intervening centuries. So maybe if I get over here, we can take a better look at some of the paintings. I'm not entirely sure. Or just get a better view of the church because we're not in the sun. Yeah, right. Very cool church. Very eclectic. Again, just that mix of styles, and the use of paintings on the exterior as a decorative element is not something that you typically see. But, God. Yep. Okay. Oh, man, the sun is not forgiving today, not at all. Got a nice little park here, la la la. So, I do want to point out here in just a second. Coming up this way, we're gonna walk past like some pretty basic stuff, and then I was just talking about building buildings and homes that kind of fit in with what's in the neighborhood. This is a good example of what you don't need to do. Not only does it look idiotic because you can see the side and you realize that like they didn't even bother to do the like weird fake stone effect on the side, but then it just looks like dog shite, right? Like, just not a good looking building. I don't know when it was built. It might have been a Lushkov era, but anyway, back to the older buildings. I gotta make sure, is this the one I'm looking at? Yeah, it is. Okay. This right here, I mentioned the conservatory and how we were gonna be coming back to that idea here. This is the building for the teachers of the Moscow Conservatory. It was built in the mid 1950s. Kind of would have been a little bit more of an elite residential building back in that era of the Soviet Union, right? Kind of got some nice balconies. It's obviously like in a quite nice part of the city. Just make sure there's anything else to say about that. Yeah, really not too much. It's it came on the heels of constructivism. Well, maybe not on the heels is maybe not the best way of saying it, but it's kind of the antithesis of constructivism, where you have these, more classical elements and stuff like that. There was also a sheet music library in this building, one, maybe two concert halls as well. I mean, obviously, if it's for the teachers of the conservatory, then it's going to be connected to music. And what we get down here is also, right, you can see here, Dom Kompozitorov, or the Moskovsky Dom Kompozitorov. That is the Moscow home of composers, or building of composers. It's like this whole line of buildings, from not the ugly one, but the one that we were just talking about right there, the one for the teachers, all the way down to the end here. These buildings are all connected to music. So this one right here, like these two, they're like this part of the building, and then that back there, that's like, they're connected, so they're kind of considered the same building. And then the next one right here, which obviously is a little bit more impressive, in my opinion, is the home of 100 pianos. The Dom Staralye. Let me try that again. Dom Staralye. I'm not doing it. Not doing it today. Dom Staralye. Yeah. Anyway, same basic style, right? That kind of elitist, Stalinist era. What year was this built? I don't have that information right here. The reason it was called the House of 100 Pianos is because the composers were living here too, and performers, and they were always practicing music and playing music. In fact, there are stories of them getting into fights or like arguments, somebody practicing too loud. I don't think it's gonna be possible to see from this angle. Really not, but I'll still try. If you can see the very top two floors right there, those were not originally on the building. Those were actually added after the end of the Soviet Union, during the tenure of Moscow Mayor Yuri Lushkov. So I guess somebody's got some pretty nice views up there. But now, we do have what is 100% like super elite residential here. 3 stories, right? Like really small, really quiet here. Is this an example of what I would say like looks good and fits in? Not really. Again, not to be an architecture critic, but it's fine. It looks like something though that would be a little bit better suited for outside of the city. All right, I do want to go in here, but I don't know if this is the best angle. Probably not. So we're actually going to go back this way first. We're actually going to go back this way. Because I got to come back out that way anyway. And I want to show cat. Now I want to show this old building right here. Gazetnyy переулок, Building 9, Sredniy, Building 9, Building 5. I guess. This is Palaty Yankovych. It's just done in it was restored in the 1990s. Looks like it could have a little bit of work done again. But it's done in the Arbatskaya Baroque style, connected to I'm gonna put the name of, I'm just completely blanking right now. Arbatskaya was like Anne, so it might be a huge surprise, but I haven't memorized all of the dead and largely irrelevant Russian monarchy. Or monarchy of the Russian Empire. So anyway, the specific style, which we've seen a lot reflected in churches in some of the other videos, is this one. I don't know, I do like when you have these old historical buildings that, to be fair, in the 1990s, in the 2000s, they could have easily torn down a bunch of this stuff, but they didn't. Instead of like building some sort of elite residential, they kept the old building, which, hey, I'm always down for that. Okay, so now we'll go back, we'll take a look at this church. And I think I gotta check the, oh yeah, my battery's getting low. I'm gonna have to switch out the battery here quite soon. But we got this church right here. I don't know if I can get a better view of it. I think probably not, but let's try nevertheless. I mean, I guess, yeah. I guess we are gonna just cross the street and... Tverskaya is right there. You can see all those cars moving, right? Probably not super well because of the, angle of the lens and stuff like that, but that's Tverskaya. I don't really want to go any further. We're at the edge. So, but you might be able to make out the decorative elements, the bas relief, and I will go back over and get a closer look here, but this is the Церковь Успения на Успенском Вражке. This church, at least what we're seeing right now, goes back to the 1860s, although the church itself goes back like 400 or 500 years ago. There's discussion on when the first church in this area actually was built, but the decorative elements, right, the bas relief and all that stuff, a little bit more reminiscent of Italian Renaissance architecture, or decorative architectural elements. The reason for that being is that when this was built, or when they were doing all of that work, it was also around the time that Храм Христа Спасителя was being constructed, the big cathedral, the big white cathedral that dominates kind of the center of Moscow. Let me get a little bit closer here. You can see it is, again, a lot of the elements are distinctly like what we would think of as Russian, right? Now, obviously, the windows, and you got the cherub faces and stuff like that. The window, I don't want to like stumble into the street. The window shapes and all that stuff are a little bit more traditional, but overall, just the carving style and everything that they were going with here is not at all what you would expect. It's even a little bit different from the Храм Христа Спасителя, but still very cool church. During the Soviet Union, oddly enough, this was used as a television station, or a television. As a telephone location. So basically, if you needed to make a call between cities in the Soviet Union, you would come here, and there were a line of booths that you could make telephone calls from. So I'm actually going to switch out the battery. So give me just a moment and we'll continue on. And we're back. All right, so we're good to go. We are actually going to go down this переулок here. This is Gazetnyy переулок. Got a nice old building there we'll talk about a little bit later. Gazetnyy переулок, from the word gazeta in Russian. For those who do not know Russian, gazeta is newspaper. And so the name Gazetnyy переулок comes from the fact that way back in the day, Moscow University actually had a printing press here, and it printed off a newspaper, Moskovsky Vedomosti. And so it got the name. During the Soviet Union? No. Before the Soviet Union. I'm all over the place right now. It was also known as Stroganovsky переулок for a while, and then during the Soviet Union, it was known as переулок Ogareva. I mentioned the poet Nikolai Ogarev across from the TASS building. It was named in honor of him. Now, Gazetnyy переулок nowadays and during the Soviet Union, largely connected to the cops. There's a lot of MVD, the Ministry of Внутренних дел, Ministry of Internal Affairs. It's the police. FSSP here. Basically, this building, which is not in good condition, a lot of these other ones along the way, it's all cops, one form or another. It's the police, the internal police. I guess all police are internal when you think about it. I don't know what, but yeah, that's you do got some restaurants, some cafes, but it's again kind of quiet. This I got a reconstruction of the administrative building of MVD, again Ministry of Internal Affairs. Completion date down there at the bottom, the very last line of text, December of 2026. It is, mind you, the beginning of August 2026 as of recording this. I don't think they're gonna meet the deadline. Now, to be fair, look at those columns. Look at those cornice, right? Cornices. And just the molding all the way at the top. It's one of those buildings that when you look at it, it's just like, how the hell did they allow it to fall into such a sad state? But I do hope that they actually do get the work done. I mean, granted, it's not going to be done by December, but 2028 maybe? Maybe they just need to, like those kids who want to like change their grade on the test and they kind of like just change the 6 to an 8. But yeah, again, right, we got some coffee shops, we got some little restaurants, but yeah, we're not doing that. No coffee, no street food, no drinks on this tour. Yeah, right, Sredniy Komitet, so the investigative unit of MVD, it's all in this region. Gazetnyy переулок kind of sucks, not gonna lie. It's like, it's not the place that you want to wind up, right? Like there are some restaurants you could come here, but for the most part, yeah, you just want to avoid Gazetnyy переулок. However, there's one interesting little thing up here, and it's actually one of those things that when I've walked around here previously, I didn't actually know about it. I kind of discovered it on accident as I was exploring the map, just double checking everything before coming out and doing the filming. Now I don't know, I hope we'll be able to go in and see it, but because I see the construction workers here, but there's a car coming out, so yeah, all right, hold up, we're gonna cross. So, that's workers here. Kind of off in their own little world. There's an old manor house just hidden back away, right? The Soviets built a 4-story building out on Bolshaya Nikitskaya, completely closed it in. And instead of just tearing it down, they just hid it from everybody. What we have here, I don't remember, the information is right up there. I don't know, can't remember the name of the manor house, who it belongs to. It is, Menshikova, right, of course. I was gonna say Morozov, but I know it's not Morozov because Morozov's out there. Really nothing too spectacular about it, but the fact remains that, like, they're obviously redoing the entrance, but like, it's just completely tucked away. If you didn't bother to come down here, you would never know it's here. And instead, I mean, they got the cornices kind of like on the MVD administrative building back there. I was just kind of floored when I realized that this was here, because that's like kind of the one thing about the center of the city, is there are all of these weird little things hidden away inside the courtyards, right? So unless you actually get down there on foot and just go wandering around, and like a lot of times it kind of feels uncomfortable, right? Like when I was coming through here, they're doing all the work. There's like obviously the guard outside there, and it feels uncomfortable. You're like, I don't know if I should be going in here. You totally can, but most people won't. And so effectively, unless you are, again, like a map nerd or digging around on various websites that like have certain information, you're not gonna know that type of stuff is there. Now, let's talk about this building too, because this one on the corner here, I think is another good example of something which just looks absolutely god-awful. Maybe even worse. No, the one with the columns across from the metro is the worst, but like, it's just not good. Let me cross the street. Right. Now, again, right? You can see. That might be a little hard to see because I can't go too much further down there, and the bus is in the way, but the joys of filming in the center. You can see, right? Like, you got those nice, and they did try to keep it 2 to 3 stories. They can't really build like too much higher. But what is the facade on this thing? It just looks trenches, gutters. I don't know what it is. It's kind of ugly. Not kind of. I mean, like, I know when I was out here with my wife, she was also just completely floored from, like, the hell is it? Okay, I was gonna talk about that, but there's a goddamn carnival going on right there. Long story short, the building here, which was under renovation for a very, very long time. They finished renovation not long ago, at least on the facade. I'll get closer to it in another video. Again, like that whole area. There's some other stuff down there. I'm gonna talk about that. This is an electrical substation for the metro. It actually provides electricity for the center regions of the 4 stations at Arbatskaya, right? The dark blue, the light blue, the gray, and the red lines in the metro. So, but that's it, just electricity. Quite a large building though, all things considered. Okay, we are now on Sredniy Kislovskiy переулок, and we're getting to the point right now where I don't want to say we're in a dead zone necessarily, but we're definitely in one of the more quiet areas of this whole region that we're going to be walking through. Now, that's not to say it's completely dead. We do have up here one of the houses connected to the conservatory, let me just double check, home of Synodic composers, which, hold up, where is it? That's 113. I believe it's the one undergoing reconstruction right now. Yeah, because that's 11/4 Sredniy 3. So this is just where it's actually going under reconstruction, which is good. It was actually saved in 2009. They actually wanted to tear it down completely and build like a new multi-function complex here. But people who live in the center, and obviously people who protect the city's heritage kind of banded together to stop it from getting torn down. I think we're also coming up, at least for this video, on like the 30-minute mark. So there's one last thing I'm going to show you, maybe two. Oh, we'll see. But again, there are businesses here. There are, there was a hotel back down that way. But for the most part, this is residential. This is the backside of the conservatory, right? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is not really a historical building. It's nothing like that. It's a courtyard. So I don't know exactly if it's going to work, but like I said, courtyards are kind of a magical thing here in the center. And the first thing I want to point out is what kind of makes it magical in the beginning is we got the little wiener dog over the top of it. This is one of those areas here, and that was kind of unfortunate timing on my part, realistically, or her part, I don't know. We're gonna try and go in. I do want to show. All right, we're gonna be respectful, because this is, I don't know why I'm whispering, the microphone's right here. This courtyard has a lot of art in it, and as I understand, it's connected to, there's like a sculptor in here. It's just like a very well-maintained, green, quiet courtyard. You can see, like, they got magnolia trees in here. You can see the level of care that the people who live here put into this. And I think that's like fantastic. You don't see this in a lot of places. Granted, you don't have a lot of like quiet, private courtyards like this, right? I don't know what Dom Valentin is. There are rumors it was like connected to a Russian designer. You got another sculpture over here of a deer. You've got like all of these decorative garden elements. There's another sculpture in here of a girl on rollerblades. Like, it's not to say that you don't see these types of gardens anywhere else in the city. You do. It's just like, they're typically not quite like this. They're usually a little bit more just in front of the building. And I'm gonna duck under here. I just think it's great. I think it's like a really good example of what a classic, well-maintained courtyard is like, and it also just speaks a lot about the people who live in this building. Also, I believe this is a Volga. If you look online, you will see people who have said that this Volga has been here since like the 1990s. Kind of looks like it has, but it's kind of unfortunate. It's a beautiful vehicle. Wait, is it a Volga or a Moskvich? I'm an idiot, it's a Pobeda. I'm not a car person, like I don't know why, but it's a Pobeda. Anyway, we'll get out of these people's courtyards. I just wanted to show that. I think it's like a really cool. Most of the time when I talk about the center with people, and especially if we talk about like places in the city where I would want to live, I would never want to live in the center. Mainly because, we saw as we've been walking around, there really aren't any green areas. There really aren't any shops, right? Like where you go buy groceries. I'm assuming now, sorry for the close-up, I'm assuming now in 2026 people just get their food delivered to them. But while it's a great place to walk around and enjoy an afternoon or an evening, living here comes with its own set of challenges. And I don't know if the historic atmosphere offset the downsides, in my opinion. Obviously, like if you were born and raised here, then yeah, it's a different story. But we're going to go down that way. I'm going to cross right here, and we're going to take a look at, remember, towards the beginning of the first video, I mentioned, or I showed that sort of red brick building. I said it was a theater, and that we would be coming back around to it later. Well, we're going to come back around to it right in just a minute here, I guess. I don't know what that building is, but also really nice building too. I don't think I've ever seen that one before. I don't normally come down this way, but okay. So right up here we have a theater. This is the Mayakovsky Theater. No, Teatr имени Mayakovskого in Russian. Yeah, I don't really know what there is to say about it too much. It's kind of it's in that pseudo-Russian Teремок style. Got a lot of the decorative elements I think that people would typically associate with like Russian architecture. Yeah, there's been a theater here even since before the fire in 1812. It's just that like after the fire, obviously they had to rebuild it, and they built it with stone. Yeah, it's had a number of names over the years, but named it after Mayakovsky back in the 1950s, and that's the name it carries to this day. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop down here between these two parked cars, because if I'm not mistaken, it's been, again, probably close to like 40 minutes. So I'm going to end the second video here. That leaves, I guess, just one left. A few other things left in this area that I do plan on showing you in the third and final video, but you know, you'll have to tune in for that here in the very near future. As it is, yeah, thanks for coming along for me on this walk. Like, subscribe, leave comments. I always like comments. I don't know, anything interesting. I honestly cannot remember. I've just been like going and talking this whole time. So if there's something you want to know more about, as always, just leave a comment down below. But as it is, y'all take care of yourselves. This has been Russian Context. Thanks for watching.